Hey everybody, Tyre Metalhead Weatherman here. Hope everyone's had a good evening, had a good Saturday. It's been a nice quiet weekend. If you didn't see last week's video, make sure you go check that out. Just pretty much describes what we have up ahead for the next couple of days, but some interesting things to note as far as the weather pattern is concerned as the next couple of days heads into the next couple of weeks. For right now, like I mentioned before, the weekend, no severe weather to talk about, barely even much in the way of thunderstorms, just a couple of pockets here and there, mainly around the Oregon, Idaho line, and then just off the northwest coast and a couple of spots, a few showers and storms are possible, and then also across a tiny little portion of the Midwest here between Kansas and Missouri. Outside of that, not really much of anything to make note of right now. Even in the long range, the potential is pretty low for that. We'll still kind of go over some threats right now because we can look out much further than 8 days. But as far as I'm concerned right now, nothing to really be concerned with, which is good. When we look at the upper level pattern, this is going to also be an indicator of the shift in the pattern that we can expect soon. And the main thing to make note of here is we're going to start to see more ridging starting to move off to the east here. And as a result of that, the temps across the eastern half of the U.S., especially across the south, is going to warm up a lot more. And then as we continue to go on through the next 5 to 10 days, the temperatures are going to not necessarily spike, but there's going to be a little bit of an introduction, a new introduction from the subtropical jet here, and this is going to allot for a few days of maybe some rain, maybe a couple of showers and thunderstorms as well. And as a result of that, we're going to be kind of fluctuating a little bit with the temps here, especially get towards mid-month. And if we were to go even further than that, looking at GFS here, we'll see a much more prevalent pattern here as far as activity is concerned as we get towards the second half of the month to start out with. So this is about where we were looking at the Euro, and now we're looking at GFS. We're going a little further, and you can see this little this little area of upper level energy beginning to take shape here, and this trough is eventually going to move off to the east a little bit, and this will help probably end up flipping the pattern just a little bit. Probably start to see those cool temperatures maybe come back to the eastern half of the US for a bit here. We're kind of in a weird neutral, we're on the cusp of being in this weird neutral phase here as far as the weather pattern is concerned. The PNAs, there's warm air out west and there will be warm air out east, but you know it never stays that way. It's usually pretty rare to see that be persistent for an extended period of time. Every once in a while it will, but especially during the fall, we usually have a lot of shifting air masses, and the wind pattern alone is just kind of becoming a dead giveaway as far as that's concerned. Looking at the lower levels of the atmosphere, you can kind of see this even further. You can see a little bit of troughing going on over here towards the west. Then out east, we're starting to see that ridge come into play. It does start to get a little bit more active once we get past the 13th and into the 14th. And once we go beyond the 14th here, we really will start to see things begin to ramp up here. I'm going to just speed through this because it's pretty much a similar thing. An interesting thing to note here with the GFS is the fact that it looks like we're a little bit ahead on here, but this is actually the 18Z GFS. 18Z Euro doesn't really go out far, and then secondly, it hasn't even come out yet. So another thing to make note of here, but here is the indicator that we might have a little bit of an increase in weather activity, maybe just at the very least some rain, maybe a couple of thunderstorms. The main flaw with this is I don't really see much in the way of large scale ascent or really strong forcing, something that you need in severe weather to make lift, and you just don't really see a lot of it from this setup. However, when I go to the 16th, I do see something a little bit more interesting. Even so, I still have my doubts about that right now. The orientation is decent for a moment, but I just don't really see any sort of consistency, and this is only the only real model run that I can look at here. So I mean, there's things for me to watch still, but for the most part, I'm not really catching anything that's really concerning me at this point. But as time goes on here, especially as we go towards the end of the run, here's that little indicator of the pattern shifting once again. This trough is going to bring in a little bit of cold air behind it, and with that, if we can get any sort of moisture to wrap around it, we could see or a low to organize around it, we could see some stronger storm systems, maybe some winter weather up north. But looking at the air masses here, you'll get a better idea of what we're seeing, what I'm seeing here. So go ahead and put that into a loop, and you can see the date here, and you can see all the blue blobs here. Those are cold air masses. The red areas are warm, red blobs are warm air masses. And you can see that for the most part, we're just kind of in this little bit of a flip-flopping type pattern where we'll see a little blast of cool air and then we'll have it replaced by warm air. It's even prevalent on the GFS, even more so on that, since we can look out further. Here's the date again. This is going through Wednesday, Friday, and now Saturday. A lot of warm air. It's a very warm dominant type pattern, and then you can almost see what looks like the beginnings of maybe another classic positive PNA setup right towards the end of the run. Of course, we know that the further out we look, the more things are prone to changing, so still certain things that we have to keep an eye on here as time goes on. So we go all the way to the end of the run here, and then here's the look I'm talking about. This is on the 20th. We do see a little bit of an area here that might be interesting, but of course we're looking 16 days out, so kind of hard to really latch on to much of anything. But that being said, here the temperatures are also pretty reflective of what we have going on here. We're going to see a pretty good warming trend begin across the south here. We can see us getting into the 60s and the 70s here, some 80s coming into play across Texas, and then also towards the southwest. We're starting to cool down a little bit, so we're almost trying to get into a negative PNA setup, but it just doesn't really lock itself in, so to speak. It's one thing to have a look, it's another thing for a pattern to lock itself in, and we just aren't really seeing that. This is not uncommon for fall at all, but nonetheless is definitely something to where you're going to have to pay attention. Don't put your jacket away, because just as quickly as it'll start to get going, it'll switch just as quick as well. And then right towards the end of the run, you can start to see that front come in, and as a result, this will briefly knock down those temperatures, especially as we get towards next weekend. And then beyond that, we could probably see another warming trend begin. Then if we look on GFS, it's pretty much going to be a similar deal. For the most part, I mean, it comes to no surprise here. Pretty warm, a little bit earlier on the timing with the GFS, of course. Go towards the 14th, we start to see those temperatures drop off, get back into the 60s, and then at the end of the run, that's when we start to see a little bit of a warming trend come back into play here. Like I said, it's just pretty much been indicated here, even when I was looking at the November outlooks all the way back in October. Just in reality, I think that this month was not going to be a month where we were solidified with cold or warm here. It's really going to be interesting to see how December plays out here too, because like I said before in all of my outlooks, it's always an average. It's never set in stone for every particular day within a 30 or 31 day period. So that being said, hopefully everyone's been latching on to that. If we were to look at the potential for moisture returns, I do see a few days on here where it gets mildly impressive, but like I said, with no impressive setup for a large scale ascent or lift or anything like that, we're kind of struggling right now with severe weather, which is honestly a good thing. This year has been absolutely insane for severe weather, but nonetheless, if there was anywhere that I would still be watching over the next 10 to 16 days, it would probably be more so the Gulf Coast states. But like I said, we really need a low pressure area to get things going as far as that's concerned. And right now, I'm just not really seeing it. And then as we continue to go forward with the GFS here, it's a pretty similar deal. A little bit stronger moisture return, but still, like I said, no large with a limited daytime heating, large scale ascent being on the lower end here. We're not really going to get much out of these. We'll get some showers, we'll get some storms maybe, but that's really about it. I think a few stronger cold fronts might come in, and maybe the chance might be maybe the chances will increase, but it's going to be pretty marginal at best, pun intended. If we were to look at the lightning flash density, we're not really going to see too much anything impressive here. It's me more or less just doing a check down at this point. But really over the next 10 days, like I said, unless you're around the Gulf Coast, I'm not really expecting much of anything to come of this. And then if we go to the precipitation outlook here, with the Euro, we'll probably see a similar deal. Could see some wintry weather further up north, but outside of that, I didn't want that. Trying to get this to go here, but if we look up north, you can see even right now, that cold air is staying right at the border, just north of it. So to start out with, the winter weather is kind of being held at bay here right now. But we do see this system come into play around the 9th, and this brings a little bit of snow towards the Rockies. But outside of that, this really just is a rainmaker. I wouldn't expect much in the way of severe with this at all. And then I was watching this at one point for having the potential of being a coastal storm, but like I said, that cold air is a little too far to the north, and once we get towards where that cold air is, the moisture is long outran this. So that being said, I'm not really too worried about winter weather right now. Then as time goes on through the model run, we see another storm system, but it looks like the low is going to stay pretty well off to the north here. So a lot more snow for Canada, some snow for the higher elevations, but outside of that towards the valleys, nothing to really be concerned with. Just some cooler temperatures at best. And then if we look at GFS, it's going to be a pretty similar deal. So like I said, all the way through this week, other than a few pockets of snow here and there up towards the higher elevations, not really much to be concerned with here. Snow staying north of the border. And then, of course, a couple of cold fronts come in, some shower and storm activity on the rise here, especially towards the deep south here. And then after that, nothing to really be concerned with. If we take look at the system that we were talking about on the Euro, it's even less better situated to produce any sort of a coastal storm. It just it doesn't even try to ride its way up north. It just kind of gets itself out of here. Could produce some moisture on the backside of it, where there could be some light snow towards the higher elevations over towards the northeast. But outside of that, nothing really noteworthy right now. We do see a couple other systems come into play here for the Rockies according to the GFS, but outside of that, nothing really noteworthy once more, pretty much throughout this entire run. So we're in a pretty quiet pattern here. It's not really too much to talk about here. Always have to watch the tropics, even though it looks like things are kind of dwindling down with that as well. So like I said, it's going to be pretty quiet right now, so hopefully everyone's enjoying it. I am as well. Hopefully everyone's having a good month, having a good week, and I hope to see you in the next video. Probably will take tomorrow off, maybe do a tropical outlook. We'll see what happens with this here. But I'll work on some other content for you guys as well. Maybe we'll look at maybe I'll look into some ways to pick up on particular winter systems. But if you enjoyed the video, you made it to the end especially, make sure you smash that like button, hitting that subscribe button, obliterating that share button. But that being said, hopefully you guys have a good weekend. It's been Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you soon.